Hello, friends. How are you today? Well, I am so excited to be back here with you to talk about the Schumann resonance and to talk about the energies. I know I was gone for about 3 days, but I had a shocking experience and needed to just work through it. But all is well, especially when we intend to that these things are turned to our highest good, and when we look at the potential benefits that come from any of the experiences in our lives, actually. And that is relevant for the chart here. So let's just really quickly look. Since we had the zero data, there's been some white resonance come out on the chart. There was one really cool one last week. And then today on the chart, there's this image that is somewhat reminiscent of the gates of heaven. It's like just a little part one, like a little half of a gate here. And I think there's an intuitive meaning here, and I'm going to share that with you in a second. But first, let's look at the black charts here. I took a look at where that white resonance energy burst was, and it was really interesting because when you have expanded energy, when you have the white resonance on the Schumann chart, usually what happens is you see a big dip, kind of like you saw here in the white. See that? Right there. But it's really in the frequency range. But what's really interesting is, look, yellow actually went up. Red went down, which is what I would have expected. And then green was just just kind of continued. Now, did it go up and down in its range? Yeah, but it was already in that range. So it didn't break out of its range, break downward to a low end of the range. So I thought that was interesting. Oddly enough, it did do that here at 4 a.m. Take a look at what happened there. No other one did that. It's really interesting. You can look at this. See the big blue space here? Yep, that's where it did it, right there. Right where this line is. And then the big blue. It's interesting because sometimes these big blue spaces really affect the numbers, and that's one of the reasons why I talk about them. Okay, the amplitudes peaked, and it was so interesting because really the chart was strong. The energy was strong in 23 and 18, but it just really dropped off after that. In red and green were really low power, surprisingly. Another sign that this was a more interesting energy burst. So it wasn't really the kind of energy burst that expands us. I think it gave us really more something to muse over. And it's really interesting because in the qualities, you see that we had a spike to 22 here, and then you see the raising here in the chart and the raising in red to 18 here. That was really what was noticeable. During the energy burst, you did have spikes, both in green at the beginning, yellow and white, and really nothing. It did nothing for red. So it's really continuing, the numbers behind the scenes are continuing a trend from when we had zero amplitudes, which is that there's a lot going on in the yellow. And in my view, anecdotally, that is the non-physical closest to the humans. And it could even be, our attitudes, or our attitudes changing. Are we shifting? What we're thinking about is how we're feeling deeply affecting us, or is there a change going on there? And that's what I wanted to talk to you about the image here. Before I do that, I just want to say there's one other interesting thing. There's been a lighting up at the chart here, and it's in this chart, but it also has happened in recent charts. And that's at 15 hertz. So we have seen this before. I believe it was in the spring of 2020, this area lit up a lot like this, and there was even little balls of energy. So I'm just keeping an eye on that to see what happens. And we still have this green light here at 20 hertz, which is continuing. But now let me do the intuitive interpretation for you. So what I did was I doubled this image here, and it's really, really interesting. So this is one of the doubled images. And then if you take it, and one of my viewers showed me the reverse doubling. I had been doing this kind of doubling here. And she had done it the other way, which was really cool. All right, now, let's see here. What am I looking for? I'm trying to get this how I really want it. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So, you know what's really interesting? When I looked at this image here, look how it goes up, and it's really almost makes, it's really, really circular, you know, the image. And there's sort of an initiating point here. At first, you know, it's like there's energy bursting forth flat and then up in a big ball. It looks like an explosion. And then, but then when you look at this like this, okay, when you look at it the other way, what does it look like? It's like there's a bridge here building in between two sides of something. And these are almost hands or arms reaching out now towards each other. And then here's sort of a rounded face and another rounded face. It's really barely distinguishable as a face. It's really more, see the vertical lines here? These are more mental ideas, ways of thinking, ways of doing and being, is how I saw it. So let me just look and see. There's some interesting faces in the middle here. Sometimes the middle produces really interesting images. It's like a little baby here. Right? So there's got to be a truce over the babies, or a coming to alignment and agreement over the babies. As I see here as a baby. See the little, see, it's so perfect. There's a little hair. There's the eye, nose, mouth, arm, body, leg, and leg. It's always so calming as we get down. Oh my gosh, look at me, a heart. This is obviously the preferred, the 12, it made a heart. Oh man, that's awesome. This is the preferred choice, it seems like to me. Okay, because the other choice is this explosion here. This is what I think is going on in the yellow, right? We're musing on this idea. There's two sets of something, there's two sides of something, there's two points of view, there's two stories, there's two sides of a spiritual war, there's two ways of living. And these are the choices, right, for addressing this. This doesn't necessarily mean something in the physical. It could also mean a great, something that really disrupts us, a challenge or whatever. So as a way to address something, I don't know, I guess I would prefer to come together and build bridges, but maybe, I don't know, maybe neither one of these is a good choice. Who knows? Maybe there's a third way that we haven't seen yet, and that God will give us guidance on. Isn't this interesting? This almost looks like a butterfly here, or like some kind of bug. See the eye, and then the antenna right there. And then in the middle would be the segmented body. And then here's like a wing and a wing on the other side. Wow, I just saw that talking with you guys. And then here's kind of the legs down here. Wow. Okay, let's look more. What is in here? Boy, some of these patterns that these designs make are just so beautiful. I see a monkey face here. Do you guys see that? I don't know if it's a monkey or some other unfriendly being. And then calm, thankfully. These things, I feel, come out of the depth of our subconscious. And they give us information. And depending on what you see here, they may give you information that is different than they're giving me. This one here almost seems like, well, at first I was looking at it, it looked like a lion face with a crown on the top of the head. So whatever you see, I really feel that gives you information for you. Look at this. There's a little being here pushing the two sides apart. Almost like saying, maybe keeping this from happening. A neutral space here that prevents it. Or maybe this is some kind of technology here. See, look at the 4 legs. It's like a piece of technology sitting on a table with legs, or a platform with legs and emanating. Wow, that looks like a Tesla. That almost looks like images of variations of these Tesla designs that I've seen floating around Twitter or some other social media posts. Maybe this is, instead of an explosion, maybe it's a present representation of the the great level of energy available to us with new technology, certain new technologies that are unknown to us in the moment. That would be cool. If so, they're emanating through the airwaves. See here? Because now these are emanation points of energy rather than thinking on the mental plane, right? Because it's going out from the center of the circle. But the circle is being generated by this technology. For goodness sakes. Can you guys see that? It's so cool. It is. It's like there's a little machine down here. Well, anyway, there's two themes here, intuitively, and looking at especially what the yellow has been doing, and the fact that this white resonance wasn't really it wasn't an expansion. It wasn't an expansion like we would normally get, like that comes from, that really feels like it's from divine support. What it was information, highlighting information. And it's kind of like humanity is considering these different possibilities that are reflected in the image. Wow. Okay. And there's all these emergency vehicles and stuff now. So it's like, on the one hand, it seems tense, engaging, important, and like there's a crisis. Okay. But on the other hand, what I would say is that this is generated out of the human consciousness. What's missing here is the link with divinity. You know, the big dips that we get in the white resonance, the big effects we get when we have a huge wave of energy. And I want to explain exactly what that means, what I mean here. So here we had a huge sort of outpouring of the white resonance in a very expanded way. What does that mean? It means that really we feel like a lifting of our heart. We feel a boost of energy. We feel a connection with the divine. We feel closer to God. We get connections, intuitions, musing, information from a source that is greater than just who we are as an individual. From really our own soul, we get that connection. We get all the beauty, information that comes with that. And when that happens, this is what happens in the frequencies. See, look, see that right there? That big drop off. That's when you know that this is what is happening. And then you see the big rise over here. In today's frequencies right here, that doesn't happen. It does not happen. So even though it's the white resonance, right? The white resonance acts in two different ways. Sometimes the white resonance acts to help expand us, and sometimes the white resonance acts to help inform us and support us as we are musing, coming to our own conclusions. But what I would say is, out of the two different offerings here that humanity is focused on, again, I want to emphasize, maybe there's a third, because when we co-create with divinity, we get access to more resources than we have, to more solutions than we know are possible, and we even gain access to miraculous outcomes. So I called this video Echoes and Reminiscences of 4D. And why did I do that? I did that because the image, the white resonance image itself, looks like part of the gate of heaven. But it looks like an echo or a reminiscence because we recently had that big, gorgeous gate. But now it seems like quite a while ago, doesn't it? Doesn't time seem like it's going faster? But it's like as if you were attempting to remember what the best of something was like, what heaven was like, what this expanded consciousness might be like. It's like we're living on Earth and we're trying to imagine the problems that we have and we're thinking about what might the solutions be. And I call it Echoes and Reminiscences because when we're in this and we're trying to figure this out, a lot of times we rely only on our human power. And the thing with that, the thing with only relying on our human power, is it leaves out the divinity within us, which is the wellspring of information and the wellspring of miracles, when it looks like there are no solutions, when it looks like everything is set a certain way, and how could we get off this track that's just this train that's, barreling towards its destination. And the fact is, none of that is certain. And I called it Echoes and Reminiscences in 4D because, to me, that's what the yellow resonance represents. To me, the fourth dimension is the non-physical closest to the human body. It's the easiest way to explain that. And I'll put a link to an article I wrote on that, explaining what is the fourth dimension. I think it's I think it's the best article written on 4D. I've never heard anyone else explain it this way, and it's really a great insight, because 4D isn't separate from who we are. It's simply the non-physical aspect of who we are. And when we rely on that only, without expanding to the source of all that is, to the source of our own soul, to God, which as living human beings we have access to, that's when we get the miraculous unfolding. That's when solutions happen just immediately, almost overnight, suddenly, and we couldn't think of it on our own. It's a reliance on God that gets us through these challenges we face as a civilization, both on the planet Earth and as a nation. As a nation, I'm talking about the United States of America. It's reliance on God that sees us through.